Being left hurts, but being replaced doesn't just hurt. It changes how you remember the relationship, because when someone leaves you, the pain stays in the present. You know what you lost. You know when it ended. But when you're replaced, the pain doesn't move forward. It moves backward. Suddenly, moments you trusted don't feel solid anymore. Affection you believed in starts feeling conditional. Things that once felt mutual begin to feel one-sided in hindsight. And the thought that takes over isn't dramatic, it's quiet. If she could replace me this fast, was I ever chosen the way I thought I was? That question doesn't attack your emotions, it attacks your certainty, because now the pain isn't just about losing her, it's about losing the meaning of what you thought you had. You don't just miss the relationship. You start questioning whether it existed the way you experienced it. And that's why this pain behaves differently. Being replaced doesn't fade with time. It waits for stillness. It waits for the room to go quiet. And then it asks questions you weren't prepared to answer. When someone leaves you, the pain has a shape. You wake up and feel the absence immediately. You notice the silence where her voice used to be. You move through routines that suddenly feel hollow. It's sharp. It's undeniable. And it hurts in a way that makes sense. There is a moment you can point to and say, this is where it ended. Your mind knows where to place the loss. It knows what you're grieving. And because of that, the pain stays honest. You miss her. You miss the connection. You miss what you believed the relationship could become. But even inside that pain, there is clarity. You don't question whether the relationship was real. You don't doubt that something meaningful existed. You simply mourn the fact that it's gone. That kind of pain hurts deeply. But it doesn't confuse you. It doesn't turn inward. It doesn't make you suspicious of your own memory. And over time, that matters, because pain that makes sense eventually loosens its grip. You learn how to carry it. You learn how to live around it. Being left hurts, but it leaves your understanding of the past intact. And if you're listening to this and recognizing yourself, if you've been carrying this kind of pain quietly, trying to make sense of it without turning bitter, subscribe, not for noise, not for outrage, but for understanding, before this kind of pain turns into something heavier. Replacement doesn't announce itself right away. At first it feels distant, abstract, something you can push aside if you stay busy enough. But then it starts touching the past. You remember moments that once felt secure, and notice how fragile they feel now. Conversations you trusted begin to sound different in your head. Compliments that once felt sincere start to feel rehearsed. Not because anything changed back then, but because what happened after changed how you see it. That's the part people underestimate. Replacement doesn't just hurt you now, it poisons memory. You start wondering if she was already drifting when she said she was fine, if she was already preparing when she told you not to worry, if the warmth you felt was mutual or something you were supplying alone. And once that doubt appears, it spreads. You don't relive the breakup, you relive the relationship. Your mind begins pulling apart moments that were never meant to be analyzed. You look for hidden meanings that weren't there at the time. You replay small interactions, not because they mattered then, but because they matter now. This is when the pain becomes relentless, because you're no longer grieving what you lost, you're questioning what you had. And that uncertainty is heavier than loss. Loss has an ending, doubt doesn't. Replacement turns memory into a crime scene, and your mind won't stop searching for evidence, not to punish you, but to understand how something that felt real could disappear so cleanly. At some point, something shifts. You realize you're no longer thinking about what she did. You're thinking about what her replacement says about you. That's when the pain stops being relational and starts being personal. Because replacement doesn't just remove someone from your life. It challenges the version of yourself you believed in. You start wondering if you misread your own value, if the confidence you felt was borrowed from her attention, if the role you thought you played was smaller than you imagined, and that realization is unsettling in a way heartbreak never is. Heartbreak hurts because you lost someone. Identity injury hurts because you lose certainty. You stop trusting your judgment. You stop trusting your memory. You even stop trusting the calm moments you once felt secure in. Not because they were fake, but because they didn't protect you. Replacement makes you feel exposed, like the man you were inside the relationship was only real as long as she reflected him back to you. And when that reflection disappears, you're left asking a quiet question you never thought you'd have to face. If I mattered the way I believed I did, how was I so easy to replace? That question doesn't come with anger. It comes with shame, because it makes you feel interchangeable, like what you offered wasn't unique, just sufficient, and that's why replacement cuts deeper than loss. Loss wounds the heart. Replacement destabilizes the self. There's a detail that keeps coming back, not what she did, not who she's with, but how fast it happened. You tell yourself it shouldn't matter. You tell yourself speed doesn't mean anything, but your body doesn't agree, because speed feels like information. It feels like evidence that she was already ready, already steady, already emotionally ahead of where you were standing. You notice how quickly her life seems to normalize, how naturally she settles into something new, how little space your absence appears to take up. And even if you don't want to compare, the contrast is unavoidable. You're still processing the loss. She looks finished with it. That's where the humiliation creeps in. Not because she moved on, but because it feels like she moved on without cost. As if what you shared didn't leave a mark, as if you were easier to replace than you believed. Speed turns into a verdict, not logically, emotionally. It tells a story your mind keeps replaying. If it was this easy for her to continue, how significant was I really? And that question hurts more than rejection. Rejection says, you weren't chosen. Speed makes it feel like you were never rare. And that's the part that stays. Here's the part most men never consider. You and her didn't arrive at the ending at the same time. You experienced the breakup as a moment. She experienced it as a process. While you were still present, still trying, still assuming the relationship was intact, she was already adjusting internally, not dramatically, not maliciously, quietly. She began letting go in pieces, lowering expectations, imagining life without you before admitting it out loud. So when the separation finally happened, it felt sudden to you and strangely smooth for her. That's not because you were easily replaced. It's because she arrived at the ending earlier. You reached the loss when it became visible. She reached it when it was still private. And that mismatch creates the illusion of speed. It makes it feel like she moved on instantly, when in reality she had already been leaving for some time. This is why the replacement feels unfair. You were still emotionally present in the relationship while she was already preparing for the absence of it. You were grieving in real time. She was transitioning in advance. And once you understand that difference, something shifts. The pain stops feeling like a verdict on your value and starts looking like a failure of timing, not because you were blind, but because you trusted the connection to be shared. After replacement, the mind doesn't move forward easily, it circles. Not because you enjoy the pain, and not because you're stuck in the past, but because something important doesn't make sense yet. Your mind keeps replaying moments not to torture you, but to protect you. It's searching for the exact point where things shifted. The moment effort stopped being mutual. The instant honesty turned into distance, because if it can find that moment, it believes it can prevent this from ever happening again. That's why the thoughts return when you're tired, why they show up when the room is quiet, why they come back when you're finally alone with yourself. Your mind isn't asking, how do I get her back? It's asking something far more serious. How do I make sure I never stand here again? Until that question is answered, the loop stays open. That's also why advice to just move on never works. You can't move on from something you don't yet understand. Replacement creates an unresolved equation, and the mind hates unfinished math. So it goes back, again and again. Not to punish you, but to close the loop. And once the loop closes, the obsession fades, not because the pain disappeared, but because it finally made sense. Once you understand what replacement actually does, something changes. The pain doesn't vanish, but it loses its authority, because now you can see it clearly. You weren't shattered because you weren't enough. You were shaken because the ending happened out of sync. You were still bringing honesty into the relationship while it was no longer being returned. And once you recognize that, the pain stops feeling personal and starts feeling instructive. It becomes information. You begin to notice the signs you once dismissed, when effort turns into maintenance, when communication becomes careful instead of open, when problems are felt but no longer shared. That's where endings really begin. Not when someone leaves, but when truth quietly exits the room. And this is where your power comes back. Because understanding doesn't just heal the past, it sharpens your awareness for the future. You stop chasing certainty from people who have already left. You stop rewriting yourself to make sense of someone else's silence. You carry the lesson forward instead. Being left hurts, but being replaced hurts more because it forces you to question who you were. And once you answer that question honestly, the pain no longer defines you. It informs you. If this video helped you put words to something you've been carrying alone, subscribe, not out of habit, not for distraction, but for clarity, before confusion hardens into identity. This channel exists for the moments that only make sense when the room is quiet and the past finally stops asking questions.